Hey, good morning. Super pro. I'm gonna cook. I'm doing my stew again, as I typically do. It's, gotta get things done. Kill a little time this morning. Excuse me. Thursdays, I don't like being over at that house where my shop is because there's the gardeners are there and it's too much. Yeah, I know, bitch. Your device is connected. Sorry, I'm talking to my speaker. So they have to give you this little real polite English voice, but it's always annoying when she speaks. Some of you are married to that. I don't know. So it's always annoying when she speaks. I love her, but all right. So for those of you that don't know, I do this stew every week, and just basic ingredients are carrots. 2 of these packages of carrots here, and I got about 5 pounds of beef. I usually have them do less than that. Oh shit! He gave me a bunch this time. About 5.5 pounds of beef. I always tell him to give me the stuff that's fatty if he can. And then green beans. This is the base of the stew. Oh, onions. Onion. 2 of them. And I didn't sharpen this knife first. Let's do that. So, I want to talk a little bit about, there's a bunch of other crap that goes in this, and I'll show you as I do it, I want to talk about the UFO thing. Not necessarily the Jersey drone thing. I said I didn't want to talk about that too much anymore, but something that a lot of you are probably unaware of is, I mentioned this in the last video, it's just the history of humans and UFOs. Like what has been depicted. Get the brain going here. So the mouth can catch up with the brain. What's been depicted by humans throughout history. All right, maybe I'll include a couple pictures at the end. I've been saving these pictures forever on my different computers, but they're on the computer, and I do everything from the phone, so it makes it difficult. But I've said this before, if you look at petroglyphs and some cave art, there's things that look exactly like what we think of as UFOs today. But I also mentioned the Vedic texts, which is something you really should look into. This all comes out of India. And these texts predate the Bible. And, I get the dates wrong. I had a comment on one of my shorts yesterday. I guess I misspelled a word in the title. Look, I misspeak. I mistype. I have typos. I'm a human being. What I'm saying is usually it's a real thing and whatever, but I might not get everything exactly correct. But that's why you should look into this stuff on your own, so you can get it correct, right? Learn by doing, not just listening. Blind faith, that sort of thing, I think is a problem. At any rate, when you look at the Vimanas, there are actual schematics of the UFOs, and many of these UFOs have propellers like what we see in modern day drones. Yeah. And now I wish I could remember which story this is. There's a thing in the Bible, I can't remember who did it. Somebody built this structure, and a couple scientists in the 20th century that didn't know each other's work. One built the structure, but the other one built the craft that fits into the structure. And there's a book on it. They both wrote books on it. And that craft that he built has 4 propellers on it, like helicopters, in the 4 corners. So I'm just saying, I'm pointing that out because we're seeing some of that now. And we're seeing like what look like battles in the sky in a way. And, just because it looks like something we actually use these days doesn't necessarily mean it's ours. That's all I'm saying. And with all the nonsense going on and the excuses that are not excuses, it doesn't make any sense. I never bought the nuclear thing looking for a nuclear device. Why don't they do it during the daytime? You know, there's a whole bunch of things that bother me. But really, I just want to talk about the historical record on this. So, again, also in the Vimanas, they talk about how the propulsion system works. And I will also say that this is thousands of years old, this information, and just like us, their technology would change as well. I mean, they already have crazy advanced technology, but, you know, their technology could be changing and advancing as well. On top of that, I think that there's beings that have been coming here forever from all different worlds. And so they're depending on where they come from, they're gonna have different sorts of craft. It's not gonna be one type of craft. So these are just my thoughts on it. But another thing I wanted, this might be a real short video. You won't see me do this whole cooking thing, you know? It's not really cooking, it's prepping. It cooks over 8 hours in the, what do you call this thing? The crock pot. The greatest invention ever, right? It took me forever to start using one of these things. All right, so there are paintings that go back hundreds of years where, and some of them are religious paintings, a lot of them are, where there are clearly spaceships in the paintings. There will be a painting of somebody, and then there's this one painting, I think it's a woman, and there's a guy in the background doing this, and above him is a spaceship. You know, clearly it's a spaceship. And there's paintings of Washington, George Washington, where they put spaceships up. There's a church somewhere in Eastern Europe where it's the crucifixion painted on a wall, and up above it are craft, little spaceships with people in them, like a guy crouched. You got to look this stuff up. If you haven't seen it, you should look it up. This is the thing about, like, I don't really want to have to show you. I want you to be curious enough to go, oh, what's he talking about? And then look it up and see it and discover it for yourself. Don't believe anything I'm saying or what anybody else is saying, right? Turn your thinking caps on. So, to me, I think that's what we're seeing right now. And I got it wrong. I think it's the 16th century in Germany. It's like the 1500s where you can look up this. They printed in the local papers where there was a battle in the sky. Looks very much like what we're seeing now. And I don't know how to explain it any better than that. And of course, I don't know what this is all about. I think maybe there could be a faction of beings that I believe they're interacting with the people that run the world. There's a great book. I've showed this to you before. It's a really interesting book. It's this guy, Jim Marrs. He wrote a lot of really good stuff. Our Occulted History. The thrust of this is that the people who run the planet now, right? You look at the Bilderberg Group people and the Rothschilds and all these people. Is this? I can't tell. I can't see what I'm looking at here. So all these people can trace their bloodlines all the way back to the people who ended up running Egypt after the first dynasty there. And if you look at the old hieroglyphs, and not just the hieroglyphs, but if you look at the stuff that comes out of Mesopotamia, their hieroglyphs, which are a little bit different, they have cuneiform writing, but the depictions of people, very similar. In Egypt, along with the hieroglyphs, they have these artistic renderings of beings that are blue, and they're giants. And then they're right next to normal-sized humans. And then they have people with elongated heads working alongside normal humans. We see that with Mesopotamia, right? We also see it with the Vedic texts and the Hindus, you know, what's going on over there in India. They've always accepted this. I mean, this is their world. Alexander the Great, in one of his battles, talked about gleaming shields hovering in the sky above the battle. It's just countless stories of humans on Earth seeing things in the sky and leaving a record of it for us. I'm not making that up. It's real. The fact that people are not putting this together and talking about it is it's just bizarre to me. It's bizarre. Every story that they come out with is debunked as far as the way they're trying to explain this away right now. So what's going to happen is more than likely nothing's going to happen. More than likely this will stop happening and we're just going to go back to our normal lives and nobody's going to answer anything. That's probably what's going to happen. There is, you look at the Bible and they talk about at the end of the days there, the sky opens, God comes, pulls us up. That could be what's going on. But here's the thing too. I wanted to point out to you because I kept alluding to it and then not talking to it in recent videos. The lights on these craft. Look, if they're from another world, clearly they don't need lights. Their technology is such they don't need a flashlight to find their way, to our solar system. So what would lights be used for? Well, right now they want us to see what's going on. They want us to know. But the other thing is, when I was taking my UFO pictures, this is why none of this freaks me out, because I've been into this with my own images since 2008. And I was taking pictures of a lunar eclipse. I'll tag this at the end of the video. I've been doing that lately. I hope you guys are going to this, because I have a whole picture folder on this on my Facebook page. I was taking pictures of a lunar eclipse. I was watching TV at the time, and I had this digital camera. It was a pretty good camera at the time, and I had a screw-on telephoto lens on it. I had it set to infinity, no flash. And you got to keep in mind, I studied photography when I was in the Marines. I went to college and did a semester of photography, and I worked as a photographer for a while. And I understand parallax and light infraction and all these things, right? So I'm taking pictures of the moon, and I realize it's going to be out of focus because I'm hand holding. So I got the tripod out. I put the camera on the tripod right here on my back porch, looking right out this window behind you. And Dodger Stadium is a couple miles in that direction. And that's where this craft ended up being. So, but I didn't see it. I didn't see any freaking spaceships up in the sky with the naked eye. And I had my binoculars out looking at the moon. And I'd go back inside, I'd watch TV, commercial would come on, I'd come back out, I'd take more pictures. I was adjusting the camera, trying to keep the moon relatively center in the frame. And you can see how the moon changes during the lunar eclipse. And this was a long, 2008, look it up. I think it was February, something like that. Very long lunar eclipse. Took like 45 minutes, 50 minutes, something like that, as I recall. So that was it, and I went on the phone, on the camera, and I deleted a bunch of the image. Maybe I put them on the computer first. And I deleted a bunch of them without really looking at them. And it took me a few days to get to it, but maybe even a couple of weeks. But I eventually opened up the picture folder because I was a little bored with it. I was like, what are you going to see? I mean, the moon isn't even that big in the frame, really. I don't even know why I did it. Compelled to do it. Compelled to do it. So I open up a random shot, not the first shot, just a random in the middle. And I see in the lower left-hand corner here a very vibrant strip of color, full color spectrum. And I had Photoshop at the time. It's on my PC. And I opened that image up and I cropped it. It's a fucking spaceship, man. It's round. I'm looking at it from the side. It's got a dome on the top and on the bottom. You can see like dots that look like portholes in the dome with lines on it. Lights are going all the way around it. The light is radiating off of it into the space around it, and it's the full color spectrum. Now, I didn't even look at another image. That one image screwed me up for 3 days. 3 days I sat here studying that image, thinking about it. Like, what could that be? And I came to a few conclusions. Now, the first thing was, after those 3 days, was I decided to start looking at, I guess I was afraid to look at the images, but I finally started looking at all the images, and I found that that craft was there in the sky the whole time, and it changed pitch, it flew away, it came back. It stayed in the general area, but it did this, it went away. And at one point, another one comes up underneath of it like this, and then that one shoots away. And you can see this in the pictures. I encourage you to go there. Maybe I'll put a link to it in the description here, make it easy for you. It's a public, I don't have it set to friends only or anything like that, so everybody can see it. So, you know, that really, like, I'm like, what the hell? And I started thinking about it. And my conclusion was that first I started thinking, like, why is the camera picking it up but not the naked eye? And then I remembered when I had an old TV set and I'd take pictures of the TV once in a while, or if I took a picture and the TV was in the background, you would notice there's lines on the screen. They pulse at a rate that we can't see. See, there's certain frequencies that we can't hear or see. Some other animals can hear and see things. We get like dog whistle, for example, right? So that's when it hit me. You know, they don't need the lights to find their way here. However, very easy cloaking device, very simple. Those lights pulse at a rate that makes it so we can't see it. Very simple. Very simple technology when you think about it. And then I thought, like, that's probably not the colors of the rainbow. It's probably brilliant white light. And when that goes through the lens, it creates a light infraction so we see the full color spectrum. So these are things I'm putting together in my own head, right? Now, I also had a Nikon, which I still have. It's a D90, and I have a couple Nikkor lenses that are 2.8. I have a 300 millimeter 2.8 lens, like a $4,000 lens, at least it was at the time, and which I didn't pay for. I was friends with a professional photographer who used to tell me all the time I should be a professional photographer because I get really good portraits of people. And I started taking pictures with the Nikon. And that's when everything went haywire, because what I was doing was I was going out here on the porch and just setting it up at the sky and just taking pictures of nothing. Looking this way, the Hollywood sign is up here, Paramount Studios is right there, East LA, and then south. And the flight path going in and out of LAX is right here. Planes are pretty low, actually, compared to where these craft fly. And I ended up with several different types, daytime and nighttime. Again, there's another picture folder on the page too. Maybe I'll link them both in this video for you. And I got several different types of craft that are pretty mind-blowing. And I have one image that had something, 9 or 11 of that one that had the full color spectrum around the perimeter in an image that looks south. So I know these things are up there 24/7. Every day, all the time. No one gives a shit. I sent those pictures out, MUFON, you name it. I looked, and the response I got back, this is not the type of stuff we look at. That's what they were telling me. Sent it to the news. Nobody gave a shit. My friends cared. I remember, this is when this other incident happened. It's not the UFO thing, but I'm just going to put it out there. It's a little weird. There was this woman I knew, Becca, who used to hang out with a group of us that all rode motorcycles. We had a clubhouse, and we used to be friends on Facebook, and she contacted me and said she had this friend, Kimmy, this little, real good-looking Asian girl, which I didn't know at the time. I hadn't never met her. She said that this girl wants to meet me, and the next party I showed up, and I get introduced to her, and she talks to me for a few minutes to kind of size me up to see if I can handle what she wants to tell me. She tells me a little bit about her life, and that ever since she was very young and she could speak, she was articulate. She was telling people that she could see color around them or other people around them that they can't see. You know, dead people, spirits, guides, ghosts, uh, guardian angels, whatever term you want to use. She could see this since she was born, and her parents believed her, and she spent her whole life traveling the world and people paying her and her parents to tell them what she sees around them. It's a really interesting chick. And when I'd walked in, I'd noticed her right away. I'd walked in, I just scanned, and this one girl, she's all by herself sitting at the end of the bar staring at me. She had a weird look on her face. But, you know, women all look at me a little weird, you know. I just bring something out in them. Either they hate me right away or they want to see me naked. Most of them have. I don't know. Anyhow, I talked to her and she says to me, she says, Mike, you're rare. She says she doesn't see this. She said you have a golden aura and you have wings. That's all she said to me. And I don't know what that's about. But maybe that has something to do with the fact that I'm here talking to you about this. Maybe that has something to do with the fact that I was able to do that and show it to you and tell you you should be taking pictures of the sky anyhow at night. And I told people that at the time. Now, I don't know. You know, maybe that has something to do with these premonition dreams I've always had. And there's some scary premonition dreams I've had, which I don't want to share with you because they're not... You can't control your dreams, but I've had some very bizarre, not pleasant. I have had this recurring nightmare. Now, I haven't had it since I was a kid, but when I was a kid for several years, I had this really weird dream, and I think it was the perspective of me as an adult, and I'm at an event that's like a black... I'm kind of like on a higher level, not like a balcony, but I'm in this room. I walk into this room, and there's like a sunken area, kind of. And it's a big, like, ballroom sort of thing. And everybody's well-dressed, like a black tie party, gowns and tuxedos. And pretty much everybody in there had reptilian heads. And I would wake up in this clammy, cold sweat, just scared out of my wits. And I never told anybody about it when I was a kid. It's just too weird. And a lot of weird stuff. You know what? Oh, man, I hadn't thought about this in a long time. Remember the movie Fire in the Sky? When that movie came out, the woman who lived downstairs from me was actually in a UFO group, and she invited me to the screening of Fire in the Sky. So this was before the release. And we went up to Paramount Studios. She had a bunch of friends, and they were all apparently abductees. I didn't know that. And when we started talking, a lot of stuff came out, and because, you know, I just met these people for the first time, and we go see this movie. So afterwards, we went back to her apartment, and they were talking about it. They started asking me if I have any scars that just appeared. And yeah, you know, it's weird. When I was a kid, I used to have the G.I. Joes, the 12-inch figures. I still have them. They're replacements now. It's a disaster in here. It's a man cave bachelor pad, so it's a little messy. And the G.I. Joe has a scar on his cheek. I always wanted that scar. Well, this is going to be a little weird for you. At some point as a kid, I did end up with that scar right here on my cheek. It's faint. Of course, there's hair over it right now. Nobody knows where that came from. And then in the 90s, I go to the dentist, and he's doing okay, I know this is going to sound crazy, but I got picture folders on some of this. I go to the dentist, and he does this head scan, you know, the x-ray for your teeth. And he said I had a implant, like this thing floating around, a metal object in my cheek. Nobody else has ever seen that. I assume I had those x-rays as a kid. Nobody's ever pointed that out to me before. I forgot all about this. But I do have a picture folder on my page about it. Every once in a while I get this thing under my arm here. It itches all of a sudden. Then I look, and it looks like a mole. It just appears. It's a round mole. It sticks out, and it's pink. And sometimes it is in a different spot, but it's always in this general area. Eventually it goes away. And I'm telling you, one time I looked and there was something here and I watched it go like this down my arm. It poked out, went down, and then went back in. I know that sounds crazy, but it's the truth. So I don't know. I think there's definitely something weird going on here with me, and there's probably a whole bunch of other people too, and most of us don't know about it. If you're into this implant thing, and I'm not telling you I have one, I'm not saying that's even what that is, I'm not saying what the thing in my head is, I don't know what it is. Just like when I say UFO, I'm not saying that's little green men or little grays or anything. It's just an unidentified flying object. Of course, it conjures up those images because that's what we've been conditioned to accept. I did one time have that thing. They call it sleep paralysis, where you're surrounded by these beings. It only happened once. It was frightening as hell. It only happened once that I remember. I forgot the butter. Get the butter. Get the butter. You guys know what I'm talking about? Get the butter. That's Brando from Last Tango in Paris. Watch that sometime. You'll know the scene I'm talking about. Get the butter. So apparently it's a good lubricant, is all I'm saying. And it's edible. Are you still here? Anybody still here? 3 big hunks of butter I throw in here. So butter is brain food, all right? So, what the hell was I saying? I got distracted by the butter scene. Some good stuff there, Last Tango in Paris. All right. Yeah, I don't know. But if you look up this implant thing, there's some pretty crazy footage of this where people are in the doctor's office and they're looking at it in the microscope and they're trying to remove it. And you see the little, whatever, forceps or tweezers, whatever the hell they're using, and they're trying to grab it and it's moving away. And they emit radio signals. You think I'm full of it right now, right? You're rolling your eyes. You're full of crap. Well, if you start looking for it, you'll find it. Put a quote out yesterday. I was watching something and somebody alluded to this, and I said, the problem with skeptics is that their skepticism prevents them from doing the research. Now, a couple people argued that point. They said, well, no, I'm skeptical, and that makes me do the research. So maybe skeptic is the wrong word. Critics is maybe a better word, but you understand what I'm saying. If you go into a subject that you just already don't accept as a reality, well, you're not going to do the research on it. Or you're going to look at the first few things that are debunking it anyhow, and then you're just going to believe that. Again, this goes to the cognitive dissonance thing. It's the things that logically you can't handle, or that just make you uncomfortable, give you a headache, or whatever it is, you're going to find other things to think about, focus on. You're going to avoid things, and that's normal human behavior. All right? Don't beat yourself up over that. But at the same time, just, you shouldn't be dumping on the people that are trying to put this stuff out there. That's all I'm saying. I'm not going to make fun of you, and you don't need to be making fun of me. That's all. Although I don't really care. I could take it. I know that what I'm saying sounds a little crazy to people, but the reality is that I'm not making any of this up. As far as the historical record stuff goes, it's out there. I just encourage you to look for it. A lot of people are just scared. You don't want to look at it because it screws with your mind. But the idea is, and this is what made me comfortable with it, when I took my own pictures and looked at them, it rattled my cage. I put it out there for people. But the conclusions I drew were, as I already stated, these things are up there all the time. And they're, as far as I know, they're not harming us. Now, there are a lot of the abduction stories, and, as a matter of fact, Fire in the Sky is pretty good. I take pictures, I do screenshots when I watch the videos. I don't know why. I've never done anything with them. But the Travis Walton story is pretty good. He did another version. He does a lot of interviews, but they did one where they did artistic renderings of what he's talking about, where he's in the craft talking to them, and where there was some that were these alien looking things. There was other ones that looked like the Nordics, the tall blonde haired ones, and it's not like the movie. The movie doesn't get it right. The movie is, as we know, right? They do things in movies for particular reasons. Artistic reasons, directors have a thing they want to get across to you. Other times, it's kind of a psyop kind of thing. It's like, this is a story everybody knows about. Let's do a movie about it, but let's make it look like this for whatever reason. You know, make us more scared of them or whatever. I think that they live amongst us, all of it. I think that there's a lot of them here. This is a crazy... I told this story before, like having sex with aliens. This is... You still here? You still here? There was this woman that lived locally right here on Clinton, just past Van Ness, in these old apartment buildings. And she was like a Bridget Nielsen type. Remember Bridget Nielsen? She married Sylvester Stallone back in the 80s. Real tall, thin, model looking with a crazy bust. Exactly. This woman looked like she was put together from other parts, you know. And she was local here. I don't remember. I might have met her out at the 3 Clubs or something. And anyhow, we get it on. And I used to see her in the neighborhood. So I knew her a little bit after this, too. She was like safe sex, condom, plus she used this stuff, like a gel thing, like sperm. So I don't know what the hell she was using. But I remember in the middle of it, I looked down at her, and her, this sounds crazy. We're a little fucked up, too. It's the middle of the night. We've been drinking, partying, who knows what kind of drugs, maybe. During my life when I was, you know, passively trying to kill myself with my behavior. I used to walk the streets of Los Angeles at, like, you know, Sunset Boulevard and all that, like 3 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, just hoping somebody would start some shit with me. You know, the funny thing is, when you walk around in the streets like this, staring at people, walking in the middle of the night, nobody fucks with you. I looked down at her, and her eyes were black. She had black eyes. I remember that. And I remember her looking at me and grabbed my face. She goes, "Oh my God, you're looking at me." Like she's having sex with people and not looking at them. It was very strange. So I kind of just blocked that out a little bit. And at the time, you know, I didn't have cable or anything. I had a little black and white TV that had the This is such a crazy story. It all happened. I was watching this cable access show, and she was on it. And she's literally talking about how she has sex with aliens that she doesn't want to, but they come to her and kind of force her into it. And I had already had sex with her. I just was like, what the hell? You know, so I didn't want to be around her anymore because I thought that was a little crazy, obviously. And I remember running into her at some point. I lent her the Deepak Chopra book. And she's like, "You don't even need this. You're not old enough to need this." I was pretty young at the time. I was in my 20s. Anyhow, that's the story with her. That was a weird experience there. I know you're like, what are you saying? But this is all stuff that has happened in my life. So I just think that there's something to all of it. And who knows? You know, I don't think I'm anything special. I think there's a lot of people that have these experiences and others. Matter of fact, the great thing about putting these videos out is that some of you have made comments sharing your experiences. One guy did it. I went to his channel. He's got some videos. I tried to watch a video with him and his mom. When you were a kid, you got taken up by the Greys. You know, that's a tough video to listen to. I wish you would have just talked more about... And you should do this again. Maybe you have it, but I don't know. There's the way some people put videos together, it's harder for me to watch. So I just lose interest. There's something about the presentation. I don't know what that is. It's not an insult. A lot of people don't like my videos either. So, but I wish if you're going to talk about that, course, yeah, I was in the service. They train us like this. You've got to be more descriptive. You got to give me the most precise details you can. Exactly where was this? Exactly how far away was it? Estimate what size this thing was. Did this craft land? Did it touch down on the ground? If it did afterwards, was there still evidence of that on the ground? Were there parts where you could see that it touched the ground? Exactly what were these beings? Like, what did they look like? What is their size? Describe the body in detail as much as possible. The hands, the digits, that, you know, are they wearing a suit? You know, everything. When you're you know, because you have to do that. If you're not doing that and you're just being vague about things, it kind of screws it up for the rest of us who need these details, because the details are what seals the reality for us. So do that, please, and redo it, because right now it's very relevant. At any rate, I feel like maybe I touched on all of that. This is my system with the beans. I chopped the both ends of these off and I just put them in here, and you can't see what I'm doing, but so I create this bowl here shape, and then the meat goes in the center there. Yeah, maybe I'll show it to you as I do it. I don't know. If I shut this off, I guess you're not going to see it. I do this system where I stack the stuff in there, and I fill this to the brim. At some point, I put. Where is it? I'm running out. I'm out of the tomato sauce and paste again. I had to start. There was these people sent me, I forget your names, I'm sorry, but you guys were wonderful. You sent me 3 cases of the Contadina tomato sauce. I use 1 can of this, and I use, if it's this size can, I use 1 can, but if it's smaller ones, I use 2 of them. So at some point here, I'm going to open this paste up, and I'm going to put it in there, and then I'm going to put the meat and other stuff, and then after I season it with, I use the pink Himalayan salt, use the peppercorn, and then I use, I'm just doing this because you guys ask me all the time. I love this stuff here from Trader Joe's, the Tsunami stuff, and turmeric. I put a lot of that in there. And then garlic powder and thyme. And then basil and parsley. And this lasts me 6 to 7 days when I'm done with it. So I put enough of that in as I'm doing it. I'm like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm figuring out for that many days, right? Big vat of food here. And then every night I come home and that's what's missing. Every night I come home and I reconstitute it. So I put it in a pot. I love my Youre Rare. I put some in the pot. I fill up just about the top of it with this stuff here. And then I add, I haven't put that in there yet. What do I add? I add some Italian pasta. There's a little bit of that in there. I need those carbs. And that's my dinner. And I got to tell you, I've been doing this now for several years. I love it so much, I don't feel like eating anything else. You know, the vegetables, the meat, the butter. It does everything that my body, it gives me everything my body needs. And my brain. Everything my body and my brain needs. Although this is not cheap. And I just did a short on this. It'll be coming up here. I've been living on, during lunch these days, I've been eating pickled eggs, right? Hard-boiled eggs. And I buy these, there's 20 eggs in this. Just came back from the store. I get these at the Mexican market, which usually their prices are the greatest, and they got pretty good meat there. Almost $18 for 20 eggs. That's almost $1 an egg right now. This shit needs to stop. That's very expensive. And the crazy thing is that eggs and meat, eggs are nature's most perfect food. All right? Hands down, period. Period. You need it. And eggs and meat happen to be the most expensive stuff out there. And that's the stuff. And butter. That's brain food. Okay? That's your brain needs. Amino acids, fatty acids, and proteins that there is no plant substitute for. Period. period. So you can live as a vegan or whatever, but you know, you're starving your brain from the nutrients it needs, which is why you believe that the vegan diet is makes sense. You think that because you're starving your brain. So I'm just saying, the stuff that is going to make you stronger and smarter and quicker, more quick-witted, and more energy and a better mood, all the things that are good for you are the foods that cost the most money. I don't think that's an accident. They're spraying this morning. I was very agitated driving, and on the days I'm agitated, I think I'm putting up a short right now on that, I happen to look up, and those are the days that they're spraying this crap, you know. That's a whole other conversation. Now, one of the things when people ask me, okay, if they are doing that, what do you think the purpose is? There's a ton of purposes that it could be. I can't tell you exactly what it is, but there's no denying that I'm seeing it happen. We all are. You watch them turn it on and off, you know. I don't want to get into that whole conversation right now, but one of the things I thought was it's a smoke screen. Because if they're blocking the sky out with fake clouds, now, of course, Bill Gates talked about it. There's a lot of people with money that could be funding it. They want to cool the earth because they believe that man-made global warming is a real thing. They're totally ignoring the historical record on that, too, because the planet has been much warmer and much cooler while humans lived. And every time, the historical record shows this, every time humans have done better and thrived on this planet was when it was warmer. And when I say warmer, I mean much warmer than it is right now. So, you know, my thinking is that there's a possibility they're putting up this smoke screen here so that these craft that are up there all the time are less likely to be seen. That's just a thought, you know. I don't know. I don't have any answers. I just have thoughts, and I'm sharing them here. And you may or may not agree with me. And no, I don't wash this stuff before I cook it. So a lot of people are like, that's crazy, but so far so good. I'm okay. I mean, this stuff, when I cook it for 8 hours, it's going to kill anything that's in it. And then when I reconstitute it, I bring it to a boil. Then I turn off the heat completely. I put a little pasta in it, stir that up, get the pasta in the bottom, leave the lid ajar, and I let it sit for 30 minutes. And then it's the perfect temperature. I could just eat it at that point, and the pasta has soaked up any of the excess V8, and it's a perfect meal, man. It's just so good. So good. So good. What else? On this, let's stay on this topic. I don't want to do the weave here on this video. I just want to stick around long enough for me to do a couple more steps on this so you guys can see it. I know I sound crazy to a lot of you, and I don't know, maybe I am. What's normal, dude? What's the definition of normal? You know what it is? It's what's accepted by the majority. But the majority, oftentimes, has just been conditioned into a particular way of thinking, which kind of goes to religion, you know. God has come up lately, religion and God, because of this UFO thing. Here's a little thing I like to say, because I believe in God, and I believe Jesus existed, and I believe in his teachings, all right? But here's the thing. Jesus was not a Christian, all right? God has zero to do with religion. God has always existed and has nothing to do with religion. And I mean, God existed before religion. God is a concept by which we measure our pain. I'll say it again. That's John Lennon. I don't really agree with that, but whenever I'm talking about God, that phrase jumps into my mind. So, and God is a thing, and Tesla talks about it, frequency, and I like Buddhism, and I like this meditation, and you can tap into it and communicate with it. And I do it all the time. And prayers are answered. And it's a wonderful, happy thing. And to me, it's all tied in. You know, think about this. It's a very strange thing. The closed-mindedness of people, in particular religious people, is very strange to me. Believe in God, all right? And even the Pope, the Vatican came out, I don't know, 10 years or more ago, saying that belief in extraterrestrials, UFOs, life on other planets does not negate the existence of God. So, not that I care what they think. I don't need them to tell me anything. I already know. You know. Innately. We all know. You should be able to open your mind to it. It's just some of you are just scared. It frightens you to accept anything beyond your control. That's okay. But for the rest of us who don't live in fear, that shit's wearing on us, man. You know, we wish you would pull your head out of your ass a little bit and toughen up and just accept things. All right, I'm in a pretty good spot here. Take a look at this. I hope you can see it. Right now, I'm going to put, well, let's chop an onion up. This is where I start crying. I'm not really crying. I'm not emotional. But onions do it, you know. By the way, I'm not a chef. So there's a whole bunch of you right now giving me grief over how I'm doing things. I had one person, by the way, not long ago I was doing this. They said, why don't you buy pre-cut carrots? I'll tell you why. Same thing with fruit. And you should look this up. A lot of people go to the hospital with food poisoning and other issues from buying pre-cut vegetables and fruit. That's why I don't buy that stuff. I prefer to do it myself. So, back to the God thing. God's always been there, but it's not what you think it is. That's just my take on it. And I also don't think as a human being you can fully conceptualize or understand what's going on. And so that's all I have to say about that. Maybe these beings cruise around looking for God. Maybe that's the end goal here. I don't know. But this is some crazy stuff that's happening. By the way, if you don't know, what's happening right now, this Jersey drone thing, it's not just Jersey. This is my can opener. This is what I use. You stick this in here. Boom. Right? You just work this around. The can just works better here. And the reason I do this is for proficiency with the can opener and the knife, because I always have one of these. I also have the Swiss Army knife. This one works differently. This one you go in and you go forward on the can. So you do it this way. I don't like that. I prefer spinning it the other way. This style cuts backwards. So to me this is more efficient. And we're open. So my eyes are watering. Tomato paste. And some people can say, oh, you're eating tomato stuff out of a can. That's not healthy. And all right, I hear you. I mean, I don't know that you're wrong about that, but I'm not going to worry about all that stuff. Same thing with the meat. Of course, I would prefer that all my meat came from grass-fed cows that are serenaded at night by cowboys with guitars, and or maybe they're pumping music out there to the animals so that they're super happy. And you got the Temple Grandin system. If you haven't seen that movie, Temple Grandin, you should watch that. It's pretty stinking good. About how to care for the cattle before the slaughter so that they're not stressed. She came up with a very, very good system for that. What's next? Let's dump the meat in, and then now let's put the spices in first. Usually I put the meat in and then the spices, but we'll do it this way today. So when I'm doing this, I'm counting. I can't talk at the same time. I should have ended the video already, but I want to show you this process because people keep asking me. So let's keep this going until I'm done with this. And I've lost my train of thought, so. None of this should frighten you, all right? Now look, some of the beings out there can be malevolent. I believe most of them are benevolent. And I think that, this is good, we're getting to it. I think that this thing with because what I'm seeing is like a bit of a battle in the sky, as depicted in the 16th century with that block print newspaper article. And as what the Hindus talk about in the Vimanas. And, you know, their paintings are big, giant blue gods that they had with normal humans, you know. And by the way, there's evidence of ancient cities on this planet being destructed by nuclear devices because you have vitrified sand, you know, turned into glass. And the only thing that could do that is just super high temperature, you know. And, you know, you talk about Ezekiel, the wheel within the wheel. I saw one on the screen, right? Captured with somebody's phone. It's spinning like this. There's another one inside spinning like this. And I'm going, that's Ezekiel right there, wheel within the wheel. Jacob's ladder, with the angels coming up and down out of the ladder in the clouds, right? No, what was it? Moses, man. Goes up on the mountain, talks to the flaming bush, comes back with the 10 Commandments. Hey, man, Moses could have been taken up in a craft where he aged for a couple decades and got all this knowledge and then was brought back at that time. Just saying, you know, just trying to tie it all together. What I'm doing is trying to make sense of everything. Everything. So one of the conclusions I came up with when I took all the UFO pictures, why are they there 24/7, always up in the sky? Well, I had this epiphany on that. This is my thought. I'm glad I'm still talking. I forgot to tell you all this stuff. Turmeric is good. Let me get to that, but I just have to tell you, I was walking through Trader Joe's 20 years ago or more, and I'm looking at spices, which I know I always bought salt and pepper. I literally heard a voice in my head saying turmeric. Buy turmeric. And I put this in every meal now. So my thought is, these things are up there 24/7. Well, I started thinking about people who talk about the death experience or near death. Some of these people, like me, you die. It's not a near death. You were dead. You left your body. Okay? Then you came back. Now, people talk about that white light. And then if you've been following anything with the UFO phenomenon, the story where people get abducted, perfect example is the Travis Walton thing, Fire in the Sky, where his friends watch him. He walks up to this craft. The craft shoots a light down at him, you know, knocks him out. But you'll see, people get beamed up in this light. There's people that have seen him on the road. They shines the white light down and then takes off, and they end up with radiation poisoning on their skin. This is real. These things have happened. It's documented. Police reports, doctor reports, everything. People have had physical problems because of their interactions with ETs or UFOs. Right? It's a real thing. So I need more garlic powder, and I forgot to buy it, but we had just enough to do this. Sometimes, to make things go faster, I just take the top off here. So I'm putting so much of this in. Save a little time there. So what I think is going on, possibly, because I know that my soul is, me, you, all of us you're a pure light being. You're just currently inhabiting this human form. And when I left my body, I could see 360 degrees at the same time. I didn't need eyeballs. I saw everything all around me at once. And I was just in gold. As far as you could see, it was just infinite and the color gold. And his voice was talking to me, telling me I could go home. It said, you could go home now. Implying if I wanted to. Like I was given a choice. And my choice was to stay. I said, well, life has been interesting lately. Maybe I should stick around. And my thought process at that moment was, life was interesting because I was touching other people's lives through social media. This is before I had YouTube at the time, but I wasn't utilizing it. At this time, did I already put time in? Yeah. At this time, I'm out of everything. At this time, I was just, you know, it was after MySpace and just doing Facebook, that sort of thing. And I was having a positive effect. Oh, I forgot to show you what it looked like before the meat went in, but there's the meat. Hope you guys can see this. So I just flatten it out with this knife. Sometimes I cut into the meat a little bit, makes little smaller pieces. It helps to get everything together in there. I want to slice a finger off. I'd probably eat it though if I did, right? It's my own finger. It's not going to hurt anybody. A little human flesh, I don't think it's going to kill you, you know. I'm kidding. Kidding. I mean, you know, when you have sex, people, you are exchanging DNA. You should think about it that way. Are you still here? You still listening? All right. So, oh yeah, I got to top it off with the other onion. So I think that these things could be up there collecting our souls as we die. That's what I think could be going on. Now, that thought can be frightening to some people. If you read the book of Enoch, he talks about being taken up into the heavens, and he's flown around the planet. He describes what the planet looks like. At one point, he talks about what happens to our souls. And as I recall, I only read it one time, and I might have read an abbreviated version of it, but he says he saw these three like silver bowls. One has a fountain in it, as I recall. And he asks what it is. He says, that's where our souls go. But that's it. They don't really elaborate after that. And so I think it's based slightly on either where you came from or possibly how you lived your life, maybe. I don't know. Don't have those answers. I'm not going to dwell on it too much because there's nothing I can do about it anyhow. But I do think that there's a possibility that we come here with amnesia, all kinds of different reasons. Now, for myself, because of this idea that somebody else put in my head, which I don't know how accurate it is. What if I do have wings and I have a golden aura? What if I am special? Don't think I am, but what if that's true? Almost just took the tips of my fingers off. And that's why I had a different experience than a lot of other people experience when they died. I mean, that's why I saw the gold. Maybe that's why I was given the choice. Most people say they don't want to go, or they don't want to come back. And they're not given a choice. It just ends up being one way or the other. And they all come back, you know, because they're telling us about what happened. With me, I was given that choice, which I thought was interesting. And it made sense because I was asking to die for a long time. I was unhappy in this life because I was unfulfilled, because I didn't understand what I was here for. So, you shouldn't take a deep breath when you're cutting onions. That's what really gets to you. It's breathing it in, I think, more so than anything else. So, let's say these ships are up there all the time because that's really what their mission is. Now, what if they're battling over collecting our souls? What if there's a battle going on for control of the planet? And what if these beings from different places have different agendas where... Because in the historical record, again, especially if you read Zecharia Sitchin, you learn that there's certain gods helped us out. This is terrible. I want to cut some more green beans and put on top of my eyeballs. Woo! They talk about certain gods that helped us, and then other gods arguing amongst themselves because some of them didn't want us to be helped. Some of them didn't want us to have the knowledge that we've gained. So there's a lot of weird stuff. Now, I don't say I believe any of it. I'm just reading it. All right? I'm not believing all that. But it is interesting. And there is this record of it. And so, and again, there's no doubt in my mind that there was a high degree of technology being utilized by humans on this planet in the distant past. The evidence of it is all over the place. You might not be a person who believes that. That's fine. But who knows, is all I'm saying. I'm just keeping an open mind to everything. Anyhow, I just think that this latest thing is everything I've been describing to you. They've been coming here forever. And there might be, because there's this thing, it's every, 3,500 years to 6,000 years to 12,000 to 24,000 to 36,000 years. There's these cycles, and they talk about the hidden planet Narubu coming, and that puts a crazy, force on a gravitational pull on the planet, which creates havoc on the planet, and we're seeing it. It could be an asteroid coming, or comets, or whatever, that come through on a regular basis in these intervals, and they create havoc on the planet, and we have a historical record, not just from the humans who've left these records, but also geologically speaking, it backs up what the stories are that the humans have left. Again, if this is the first time you're hearing this, I encourage you to start looking into it. Look up Randall Carlson and stuff like that. Look at the Apocalypse series on Netflix with Graham Hancock. Look for some more Jim Marrs books. Really good stuff there. This is 40 pages of reference material in this book, historical reference material. And I bought a lot of that reference material. I've got, so you can't read it. A lot of it's not the sort of thing you can read. It's more like an encyclopedia of information. There's really bizarre stuff that's been documented. Excuse me. For thousands of years, man. This has never been a secret. The reason most of you are not hip to this is because there's been an active campaign for the control of your mind. The education system isn't teaching you how to think anymore. It's telling you what to think. They don't call what they show us on television programming for nothing. They're conditioning us to not be able to communicate with these beings, with ourselves. We used to be far more psychic, we used to be way more in tune with the earth, all of it. And there are people, supposedly, that channel these beings and can talk to them and have all kinds of information. Again, that's even hard for me to swallow, but because I haven't really experienced that, at least I don't think I have. But I can't crap on it because of everything I just told you about my own life. The implant stuff, and who knows if that's what that is. I don't know what that is. But I've got the UFO pictures to show you. I've got my Bigfoot story. Crazy, right? So I know that a lot of weird stuff has just happened to me personally. So if somebody's telling me that they can talk to some entity from some other world, I don't necessarily just crap on that, because I know that I've got my own weird stories. I'm just not afraid to talk about it. And I'm not just now talking about it because of what's happening in the media or on screen, on the computer, or with these crafts that are flying over. And they're just, our governments are making up all this nonsense that doesn't make any sense. It all gets debunked. But at the same time, they're not trying to shoot them down. I think when they talk about shooting stuff down, even with Trump or anybody else, as much as I think he's going to be great for the country and the economy and everything, that's a bad friggin' idea. First of all, if you could shoot it down, what happens when it crashes? Who's it going to kill, land on? That is, what's the word? Other than stupid. It's just a dangerous friggin' idea. Stop saying that. All right? There's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do about it. They're going to do what they want to do. There's nothing you can do to stop it. This is not a Hollywood movie. And if they wanted to harm us, they could have done it. They've had forever You know, I think that they're responsible for why we are what we are as human beings. I think there's an ongoing biological experiment going on. They're conditioning us. I think that they're afraid of us physically. They're not afraid of our technology, but interacting with us. I was watching something today. I've watched a lot of stuff like this before. They talk about how, like, the possibility of them being humans from the future, and that the way we're going technologically, our brains are going to get bigger, our eyes are going to get bigger, and our muscle mass is going to shrink because we're going to be more technologically driven. And so, like, they're coming back to get DNA to make them strong again in the future, all that other stuff. Whatever. I'm not saying I subscribe to that. It's an interesting theory. But these beings, like, you think about the Greys and whatnot, yeah, I mean, if these people are, obviously, they're much further along in advance with technology. So, yeah, it would make sense that they have evolved physically to not be as strong as us. And what they did was they came here to this planet and they messed with the hominids to a certain point. You know, every once in a while they came back and they would do certain biological experiments with us. We're hybrids. We have DNA in us. This is just what I think. And I happen to be Rh negative blood too, which didn't even appear. It appeared out of nowhere, something like 30,000 years ago or something. So I throw a wrench in the whole story of evolution because that's based on the rhesus monkey gene, Rh. Rh blood positive. If you're Rh positive, you have a monkey gene in your blood. I don't have that. So as a human being, I shouldn't exist if you believe in evolution as it's taught. So that's another thing. Maybe that has something to do with the way my mind works and why I'm more apropos. I can't speak sometimes. But maybe that's why I think the way I do, and I'm more able to accept some of these ideas. Don't worry, I'll get it all compressed down in there. Don't worry, baby, I'll get it all in there. If I can remember what that's like. It's been a long time there, ladies. Who wants to be the... Please, somebody come out of the woodwork that I like, that I can, I'm into. So I do that, and then I find by filling this can up once, and I don't always fill the can up completely, and this is a filtered water here out of my tap. This is one that corrects the pH and keeps the minerals in the water, supposedly. Tastes good. Just pouring that over the top. All right, let's cram this lid on here. Look at that sucker is packed, man. And I've been doing this now for a couple of years. I'll plug that in and turn it on. But I put it on low and I set it for 8 hours. Wow, I did that pretty fast. No, I didn't. It's 10:30. That took like have I been talking for an hour? Let me get off. I'm done. Have a great day. I hope this is entertaining for some of you. I hope you got something out of it. I hope you'll do some of your own research. And really, it's not about getting you to think the way I do. For those of you that are afraid of things and you haven't been exposed to this yet and you want to do some research, please do it because it will give you peace of mind. It will calm you down a little bit. I don't think you need to be afraid. I'm just telling you, they're going to do whatever they want to do. And there's not anything you can do about it. So that might be scary to some of you. I'm not afraid of it because, again, I know, which is the whole thrust of this video, that there's a historical record where these things have been interacting with us. And they've been helping certain people, in certain battles. They're helping some people win. They have definitely been guiding the human race along a certain path for whatever reason. I also think there's a chance, and I think this about myself, and it's just an imaginative thing I have. I hope this hasn't stopped recording. What if you also had a choice to come here with amnesia on purpose? Like, imagine you're a pure light being. There's no fucking. There's no eating. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know everything? Wouldn't you want to break from that once in a while and go to some other world and just live and exist and almost like a test for yourself to test your own righteousness? That's what I think I'm doing. That's what I think I'm doing. I don't know about the rest of you. So with that, have a great day. Be kind to one another. I'll catch you on the next one. How do I shut this thing off?